Hey, what's up? In this video, I'm going to show you how to transition our book from HTML, which is viewable in a web browser, and turn it into an iBook using iBooks Author. So when you open iBooks Author, make sure that you have the latest version, which is 2.5. You'll see a template chooser like the one shown here. The template that we're going to use is down near the bottom here in the EPUB section, and we're going to use the classic template. So go ahead and click that. Okay, so when you open it, this is what you see. If you're new to iBooks Author, I will just walk you around a little bit. This button up here in the top left is used to add chapters and sections. I'm going to just add a section here. Shows up with some default text. Okay, these two little buttons here are really useful and you're going to use them a lot. So one of them is paragraph style, and there's just a handful of styles that are part of this template. And we're only going to use, of this small number of styles, we're only going to use a few of them. The one next to it is character styles. So that's kind of getting in, once you have a paragraph style, you can, in addition, add a character style. Okay, so let's pretend that we had nothing. And I'm going to just get some lorem ipsum dummy text and start pasting it in. Okay, so when you paste in text, you notice I just grabbed some text from the web that had, a sans serif font, and it was probably like font size 12. And it automatically, when I pasted it in as the paragraph style body, which has a font size of 18 pixels. That's going to be important to remember. So I'm actually going to create a text document here. Body is 18 pixels. Okay, so we've got, say, a few paragraphs in our document. Let's say that we wanted to add a figure. So there's lots of figures in our book, and every figure is going to have a figure caption. So to add a figure caption, we go to the paragraph style called figure title. What that does is it switches to a size 16 font, and I think it actually slightly adjusts some of the vertical line spacing as well. And then within a character style, we'll use first figure label for the word figure, like so. And then we'll change back to none for the character style for the description of the figure. Okay, so how do you get figures in? I think the simplest way is to place the cursor where you want the figure to go, and then grab a figure and drag it in. So I just happen to have a Hook Theory logo here. Oh, maybe it doesn't. Does it not like PNG? Maybe it doesn't. That is good to know. I did not know that. Okay, so one thing I'm noticing is that as I place this figure, it's offset a little bit from the left. That may be fine. There may be instances when I think it makes more sense to have a full widescreen picture. So I'm going to see what happens if I do it again. Yeah, so when I have the cursor all the way to the left, it works a little better, and it actually does bleed on that left edge. Okay, so that's how figures look. Another thing that we might have in the document is, and I think it looks a little better with one space between the caption and the figure. In general, I'm a fan of more white spaces is better. So let's add a couple more paragraphs. Okay, another thing that our video will have are videos. And the way that you add a video in iBooks Author is you go to Widgets and you click Media. And it adds this placeholder for the video. This blue dot is what's called an anchor point, and it kind of anchors the video to a specific place in the text. And you will have all of the video assets. I'm going to open them here. And okay, so let's just grab, they're all separated by section, which is great. And I will just plop a video in here. It's as easy as that. It runs this little optimization routine to reduce the size of the video while maintaining quality. And I think kind of based on how big the video is, it takes longer or not, or shorter. That's about the typical length of time. For layout, I want to get rid of the margin. As I shrink that, you'll see kind of what happens. The text goes full bleed on that. Get rid of the background, get rid of the caption. And as you move this up and down, eventually the video starts to shrink. We're going to want all the videos such that they just reach this full default width, but that you take up the least amount of vertical height necessary. And it auto numbers the video. Another thing that we are going to do is you can change the text that shows up next to each of these. So you could say image, you could say interactive. We're going to create our own label, and it's going to be called theory tab, just like that. And we're going to click done, and then that will show up in the set of options. And so that's what we'll use. And then we can adjust the title of the video like that. In addition to, so we've covered figures, we've covered video, and there's going to be one other thing, which is something called a check for understanding, which are these little things inside the text that quiz the reader. And we'll do that just kind of like a figure. So I think go back to figure title and then change this to figure label character style, and we would type check for understanding. And so typically, and then we'll go back to regular body, there would be some question like how, so we're on that character style, we'll go back to none. How long is a football field? Okay, so pretend that was the question. What we are going to use for the majority of the questions is this widget called a popover. And we will fill the, so what popover is it's an image placeholder that then gives you this little popover. And I'll give you an image asset that you can fill, which just says show answer. Then you double click, and then you can type the answer in, and you can place text and images in here. 100 yards. Okay. So that is about everything that you are going to need to do in the book. So what are the important things? This font size is 18. This font size is 16, so that's good to know. Figure 16 pixels. There may also be different like mini sections within a section, and so we'll do that using the paragraph style heading. This is a subsection. We can add another one here with the paragraph style heading. And you'll notice that the table of contents automatically gets updated with these subsections whenever the paragraph style heading is used. Okay, what size font is that? That is 26. This is used for subsections. And then the only other thing is the check for understanding, which is also the 16 pixels. Now you'll realize in a little bit why I'm writing down these font sizes here. Okay, now how do you want to preview this in iBooks Author? You click this preview button, and it's going to use iBooks, which I've installed in this computer, so you will need to install iBooks as well. And it shows our book. Fantastic. So we can increase the font a little bit. I had shrunk that earlier. So I think the default is somewhere around here. And this is how the book looks. You can use the left and right arrows to navigate forward or back, or if you kind of hover over the middle, these things show up. And you can play the videos in line. That video happened to have a little mouse in it. You can also expand the videos full screen. I just hit escape to close that. And the popover, when you click it in the book, it shows that. So pretty nice. And the table of contents shows the two subsections. You can link to them, and that's about it. So that's just kind of an overview of what the iBook will look like once it's created. Now we have to use it or create it with the actual content from our book. The good news is there is a pretty decent way to do that. Okay, so I'm going over to the internet now to one of the chapters of the book, and you will have access to a web page that looks exactly like this. So the book contains text, images, videos, and it contains these things called check for understandings, which are formatted differently here than they will be in the book, and that's because we built this with JavaScript and HTML. All right, so step one is you go to a particular section that you're on. I'm going to do 5.3 because this has everything you will possibly encounter. It's got figures, it has movies, it has check for understandings, and it has a special case, which is check for understandings that have a movie in the answer. So remember that we used this little popover thing for the answer for this check for understanding, but you can't put movies in this popover, so there's a special way that I want to handle that. Okie doke. So step one is you go to the page and open all of the show answer buttons, and that'll make it so that when we export this page, the text for the answers shows up. Okay. All right. So I've expanded all of these show answers, and you can convince yourself that you've done that by just doing a control find for a show answer and looping through the page. Okay, then you go to File, Save Page As, go to Web Page Complete. I'm just going to save it to the desktop. Okay, great. So go to my desktop. So 5.3, relating major and minor. Now what I'm going to do is open this in Microsoft Word. It's going to say it's missing this CSS file. That's okay. All right, at the top, you're going to have some stuff here, which is a bunch of text we're going to delete. This is just because the book actually has a table of contents over here, and some of that gets copied, but that's okay. So we'll delete that. Now we need to style this thing correctly. So as we click through this document, the style thing up here shows that that's a heading 2. This is a normal. This is a heading 4. And we've got all of the text in here. So we don't have the images, but we have the image captions, all of the italics, all of the bold. Everything has transferred in, which is great because you don't want to deal with trying to copy all that over. The other thing is if you just blindly copy paste text into iBooks, it does not preserve the italics or the bold, and our book really relies on italics for the music symbols. Okay, so we need to style this. So if you're not familiar with Word, it has these things called quick style sets, which is basically like a style template for the document. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I want to adjust how each of these different style types, heading 4, heading 2, body, look. So for heading 4, which is the figure captions, I am going to change this to 16-point font because that is what this text file, that is what the iBooks author uses for figures. So I'm going to change this to 16-point font, and I'm going to get rid of bold, and I'm going to click OK. All right, now as I click through this document, the style thing updates with whatever I've selected. Okay, so heading 2, that is going to be a regular heading, so I'm going to use 26 pixels for that. So I'm going to modify, and I'm going to call this 26. By the way, you're only going to need to do all this one time, so it's okay. And then we're going to go to the regular text, and this is body, so that's going to be 18 pixels. I'm going to modify this and send it to 18 pixels. And we click OK, and that looks good. So now we've kind of got our body text, and we can also change the view to something like print layout, and it looks a little nicer. Go to maybe 100% view. Something like that. Okay, so now that we've styled the document the way we want it, we can save as a quick style set. So I'm going to save a quick style set, and I'm going to call it HT to, I had actually already done this before, but I'm just going to create another one here. Okay, great. Now, why is that important? Let's say that we went to a different section of the book and we saved a, we exported another HTML file and we opened it in Word. Instead of having to manually do those styles, we can just apply the HT2 style to it and it would work. So I'll show you that in a sec. Okay, so once we've done this, we now want to save it as a Word document. And what the heck? Why won't it let me? Where's the button for save? Let's see, save as. Wow. It's like this thing is too big. Let me change my display resolution. Maybe that'll help. I've never had that happen before. Okay, display, scaled,